Since her execution at the end of the French Revolution, Marie Antoinette has become the personification of offensive royal extravagance and righteous class conflict. Now, imagine if that was your mom. Marie's children would grow up under a microscope at the lavish palace at Versailles, where, like their mother, their lives were controlled by protocol and social duty. But when the French Revolution came, everything was turned upside down. Today, we're going to take a look at what life was like for Marie Antoinette's children. But before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the Weird History channel and let us know in the comments below what other French stories you would like to hear about. Okay? D'accord, découvrons les enfants de Marie Antoinette. Marie Antoinette was born November 2, 1755, in Vienna, which was, at the time, the capital of the Holy Roman Empire. She was the 11th daughter of Emperor Francis I and Empress Maria Theresa, and on May 16, 1770, at the age of 14, she was married to King Louis XVI of France. The very next morning, rumors began to swirl that the royal couple had not consummated the marriage. It must have been trending on pre-revolutionary French Twitter. As it turned out, the rumors were true, and in fact, Marie remained a virgin for 7 more years. It's unknown why the couple waited so long to, go Frenching, but historians suspect a physical or psychological issue with Louis. Alas, in 1778, Marie gave birth to a daughter who was named Marie Therese. It is said that during the birth, no less than 200 people crowded into her bedchamber to watch the labor. However, the long wait between the wedding and the birth of the royal couple's first child didn't sit well with the public, who, in all fairness, already hated Marie. They questioned if she was really queen material. In 1781, Marie gave birth to her second child. This time it was a son who she named Louis-Joseph. As a male, Louis-Joseph became the heir to the throne, the Dauphin, and Marie doted on him, as she did with her daughter. Royal protocol greatly restricted Marie's ability to personally give her children day-to-day care, so she got in the habit of taking them away from the court to her private retreat, which was known as Petit Trianon. The small palace, which was situated on the grounds at Versailles, was a present to Marie from her husband, and it was the perfect place to escape the pressures of royal life. As mentioned previously, the foreign-born Marie Antoinette was never cool with the French people. Even before the Revolution, she had enemies, and when it suited their purposes, they gleefully attacked her relationship with her children. Marie was known as a devoted mother, but when it came to being a wife, she had a reputation for her infidelities. In fact, in the 1780s, Marie did have an affair with a Swedish diplomat named Axel von Fersen, who had fought in the American Revolution. When her third child, Louis Charles, was born in 1785, rumor had it that von Fersen, rather than King Louis, was the child's father. The rumor and image of their king as a cuckold didn't do much to improve Marie's standing among the people. Barely a year after giving birth to Louis Charles, on July 9, 1786, Marie Antoinette gave birth to her fourth and final child. It was a daughter, and they named her Sophie Beatrix. Sadly, Sophie, who had been born prematurely, would die before her first birthday. The couple was devastated. It was the first time they had lost a child, but it wouldn't be the last. Just 2 years later, in the summer of 1789, 7-year-old Louis-Joseph, the Dauphin himself, died of an illness. Louis was heir to the throne, but he had also been sickly his whole life. Historians believe his cause of death may have been tuberculosis of the spine, but whatever the case, Marie wouldn't have much time to mourn her son. Only a few weeks after Louis's passing, the French Revolution began. The royal family remained in Paris for the early days of the Revolution, but things got uncomfortable fast. The revolutionaries were increasingly questioning the monarchy, and it was pretty obvious which way the political winds were blowing. The royal family very wisely decided to flee the country. In June of 1791, Louis and Marie disguised themselves and headed for Belgium, which was controlled by Marie's Habsburg family. They nearly made it, but the king was recognized in Versailles, and the family was captured and taken into custody. They would never return to their palace. Instead, the Revolutionary Assembly decided to send the entire royal family, including the young children, to a medieval fortress where jailers could easily watch over them. Louis Charles was born in 1785, and he spent the early years of his life running and playing in the gilded halls of Versailles. He was 4 when the Revolution came, and it changed everything for him. Upon the death of his brother, Louis Joseph, Louis Charles had become the new Dauphin. You would think becoming heir to the throne of a major world power would be a good thing, but with the advent of the Revolution, not so much. Louis Charles was branded the son of a tyrant and locked away in a tower. He spent 4 years living in solitary confinement. Separated from his family, Louis Charles' jailers were able to mistreat him, and they even forced him to testify against his own mother. It was at Marie's trial where the state had Louis say that his mother had molested him. Marie vehemently denied the charge, but it didn't matter. The deck was stacked against her. Marie was convicted and then executed by guillotine on October 16, 1793. Louis was not informed of his mother's death. Instead, he was beaten and thrown in a cell infested with fleas and filled with human waste. Left to rot, Louis Charles slowly lost his mind. The revolutionaries locked Marie Therese, the eldest royal child, in a tower from 1792 to 1795. The teenager was allowed 2 books, which she read over and over again. Her cell was very close to where her brother Louis Charles was held. The siblings were allowed no contact during the course of their imprisonment, but Marie Therese was able to hear her brother crying when his jailers would beat him. Way to keep it classy, France. Over the course of her imprisonment, Marie Therese's relatives were executed one by one. First her mother, then her aunt, and then her brother. But Marie herself knew nothing about it, as her jailers carefully hid the news from her. Finally, in December of 1795, the Reign of Terror ended. Marie Therese, now the only surviving member of her family, was released and allowed to go to Austria, where she would live with her mother's family. Marie Antoinette's trial commenced in 1793. Perhaps sensing that the outcome was a foregone conclusion, she responded to the indictment against her by saying, "I was a queen, and you took away my crown, a wife, and you killed my husband, a mother, and you deprived me of my children. My blood alone remains. Take it, but do not make me suffer long." In her last days, Marie thought constantly about her son, Louis Charles. Just knowing that he was imprisoned distressed her, and making the situation more painful was the fact that she was allowed no contact with him. Louis, for his part, didn't even know his mother was on trial. Shortly before she met her fate, Marie wrote to her sister-in-law and expressed grief and bitterness at being forced to leave her children behind. The doomed queen told her beloved relative, "You know that I existed but for them and you." Louis Charles died in June of 1795 at the age of 10. His cause of death is suspected to be tuberculosis brought on by his imprisonment. A doctor who examined the boy's body was able to smuggle out his heart. Eventually, it would be buried next to the graves of his parents. Louis Charles was only 8 when he became an orphan, and had the monarchy survived, he would have become King Louis XVII. From the public's perspective, though, the boy just vanished behind bars during the Revolution and was never seen again. Even his burial was conducted in secret. These circumstances, unfortunately, created the perfect opportunity for con men looking to impersonate the king, and plenty tried. Over 100 different impostors claimed to be Louis Charles, the true heir of the throne of France. Charles-Guillaume Naundorff was one of them. Charles spent time in a German prison for counterfeiting before revealing that he was the Dauphin. He even wrote to poor Marie Therese asking her to meet with him to help prove he was really her brother. Even Baron von Thugut, a respected Austrian diplomat of the era, argued that there is no real and legal certainty that the son of Louis XVI is dead. He pointed out that there was no real proof of the death, only an announcement in the newspaper, and a report drawn up by revolutionaries who were presented with the body of a dead child they were told was Louis. He wasn't wrong. The proof of Louis's death was less than compelling. Sadly, that uncertainty would torment Marie Therese for the rest of her life. Marie Therese was the only one of Marie Antoinette's 4 children to survive the French Revolution. In 1799, she would marry her cousin, Louis Antoine, who claimed to be the next in line for the throne. In 1830, she would finally follow in her mother's footsteps and become Queen of France. Her reign, however, lasted about 20 minutes. After less than half an hour, her husband abdicated in favor of his nephew. Not surprisingly, spending years behind bars hearing jailers wallop her kid brother, only to be released and learn that her entire family had been killed, had taken its toll on Marie. She never recovered. Though she did return to live in France, she was forced to flee the country several more times, and she was tormented by impostors claiming to be Louis for the rest of her life. Marie Therese finally passed away in 1851 at the age of 72. So what do you think? What would it be like to be one of Marie Antoinette's children? Let us know in the comments below, and while you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.